you check the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Bienvenidos, Fright fans, and welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Jaime and Fuego, and so to be getting you guys caught up on a bunch of recent theatrical frights that have honestly been infiltrating and overwhelming the theaters, but regrettably, not a lot of people are seeing them. And it's not just like an epidemic that's transpiring with, you know, horror films and genre. It's really just the entire cinema system over. So a lot of these, in fact, pretty much all of them that I'm going to be covering in these next few reviews are going to still be in theaters. So give them, you know, a bit of your attention. And this is the first, man, Night of the Zoopocalypse. And so this is one that I believe Cecil and Robert did a trailer reaction for, and maybe I was involved in like a second one later on when I was between classes at Arizona State. But Night of the Zoopocalypse is an animated flick, PG, so it's not like of the super G-rated sugary variety, but it's based on a Clive Barker, I guess, short story or idea of sorts called Zoopocalypse, or Zombies or something like that. And I know there was another movie called Zombies maybe that had like a similar sort of approach and whatnot. But Night of the Zoopocalypse is, just as the trailers indicated, it's a very nice, like, little gateway of sorts for, you know, any sort of youngsters. You know, if you got the kiddies that are into the scares and you don't want to, like, like, you know, throw them right into the hot boiling water with something like, you know, Freddy Krueger or, God forbid, Terrifier. I mean, couldn't go wrong with Night of the Zoopocalypse. You know, it's Canadian origin, if I'm not mistaken, and you've got some interesting people doing voices, most notably David Harbour from Stranger Things, and you know, he's Red Guardian in the upcoming Marvel flick. I mean, he was in what, Black Widow, and anyway, so yeah, he's the most noteworthy name, but all of the voice work is really good in this for a you know, overall thoughts, an enjoyable yet kind of simple sort of approach about a meteor that hits this zoo where there's, you know, a bunch of different animals, some of which are more harmonious with one another than others when it comes down to, you know, herbivores versus carnivores and whatnot. But yeah, man, this meteor hits, and this cute, like, adorably animated bunny decides to go up and sniff it and eat it, and in turn becomes a zombie, proceeds to infect tons of other animals, you know, within the zoo. And overall, I dug this, man. I'm not 100% that it's necessary for like a full price theater, but I mean, if we're talking like a matinee with the kids on the weekend or something like that, because as I said, it is still in theaters, I was a fan of this, man. I quite enjoyed it. And you know, the voice work from you know, I'm not sure who was voicing or lead character, who is this, it's a wolf, if I remember correctly. I was thinking of fox for a second, but it's a wolf. And, you know, just about going away from her pack and her family and everything, and just being able to work with other animals and whatnot, because a bunch of them band together to try to thwart this infection that is spreading throughout the zoo. And so the wolf and the mountain lion, and then there's a very interesting additional cast of characters that you get in there. Most notably, there is a, I have to double check my notes, but I believe it was a lemur, if I remember correctly. And this lemur was obsessed with, so you meet this lemur early in the, like maybe near the end of the first act, and it's in like the veterinary hospital that they have inside the zoo. And this lemur, first and foremost, is addicted to oxygen, so it's like sucking it down the entire time, but also watching the television that's inside this this little vet bay, and it's obsessed with the lessons of the late night movies. And so some of the biggest laughs, in my estimation, come from this lemur and just its understanding of how what is happening with them, you know, with this whole Night of the Living Dead, but, you know, with zoo animals. Yeah, it's essentially like, you know, holding the hand of these other animals as we're going through everything and describing, oh, this is when this happens, and this is when, you know, in the narrative, this should be transpiring. All hope is lost, and, you know, all these different cliches that we're all so aware of. But it's very well written. I enjoyed it. It's definitely a recommend. I mean, the story is rather simple, as I mentioned, so I don't really feel like I need to go into too much additional detail about that. But voice acting, solid. It's a lot of probably more seasoned voice actors as opposed to what you get with, like, I don't know, the DreamWorks animation, which a lot of the humor, actually, I should mention, is very much along the lines of some of the DreamWorks stuff, most notably The Bad Guys, which is one that I dug that had Sam Rockwell in the lead voice role, but it's that sort of humor where it's not super sugar silliness. There is like a slight bit of an edge to it, and as you can imagine with the subject matter of, you know, animals, and there is like, oh wow, that animal died and now it's turning into this. And so I mean, one of the only criticisms, I guess, is the way that they kind of figure out how to dispatch in the third act, because that was a little hammy and a little silly, and I wasn't super into that. But everything else, man, especially as far as the dialogue, how it's written on that story, you know, and the writing side of things, and then also how it's delivered by all of these seasoned voice actors, of which it is primarily that. So it's not like you see from, you know, the Pixars and the DreamWorks, where it's just a whole cavalcade of big-time names doing all the voice work, you know. You don't have Aquafina in this, you know. So, yeah, guys, and I mean, the animation, it's cutesy, but it's just dark enough in some of the things that they do. Specifically, without getting into, like, super spoilery stuff, but in the later half of the film, there is a bit where animals that are infected start kind of coming together to form, like, big, crazy super animals. I mean, like, think, like, giraffes combining with apes, and I mean, it gets pretty gnarly. So, you know, for that reason, like, I think fans of just more, like, cutesy, gnarly, scary genre fare will also like this too. So it does have that, you know, multi-generational appeal where it's safe enough for the kids, but has just enough edge for, you know, the parents or, you know, aunts or uncles or older siblings. I mean, whatever, you know. So for both older genre fans and younger genre fans, I genuinely think that Night of the Zoopocalypse is a it's an enjoyable time. It made me smile. That, like, between this and the wackiness that is that Dogman movie, it's not horror or anything like that, although, you know, it does have, like, the weird Frankenstein-y aspect in that movie of, oh, a man and his dog both die in this vehicle crash, so let's, like, mush their bodies together. If you haven't seen that movie, it's one of the better animated ones that I've seen this year as well. So yeah, guys, that's essentially, and also lastly, you know, music and score, it does have some very cool little, like, synth tinges to it, that, like, 80s throwback stuff that's been, I mean, it was probably Stranger Things that popularized it in the mainstream the most, but I mean, lots of stuff that is done by the likes of FM 87, I think, is one. I love Dance with the Dead. Gunship is probably, like, the be-all end-all for a lot of people, myself included. So yeah, I love that sort of dark synthwave throwbacky sort of score stuff that we have in this film at times, and it works very well. So I mean, it's humorous, it's got a little bit of, like, a dark tinge to it that works very well, and I mean, comes from an idea from Clive Barker. So I mean, don't go into this expecting the world or anything of that nature, but I mean, it really stands with some of the, like, Celix stuff, in my opinion, like, you know, Corpse Bride and things of that nature. It's of that enjoyability. It doesn't, like, touch Coraline or something, but it's still, you know, very good. Doesn't have the seriousness of something like 9, maybe, which I really love. But as far as, like, sillier, you know, horror, comedic family sort of fare, this is a step above a lot of stuff that we see out there. So I extend a grande gracias, everybody. I've been Jaime and Fuego. You can find Juan on all social media sectors, whatever. But obviously here on the Horror Show channel, like, share, subscribe. If you have seen Night of the Zoopocalypse, if you went out to the theaters to check it out, give some thoughts in that comment section below. And until the next review, which I'm about to film in just a few minutes, so stay tuned in the upcoming days as we are getting ready to cover the International Horror Sci-Fi Film Festival as part of the Phoenix Film Festival. I've been Fuego, y'all been Red Status, and until next time, Fright fans, remember, stay scared.